Alright, what is up guys and welcome back to the channel. You're watching Nwadei MMA where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly ask for you guys' thoughts. And today we're going to be previewing a bunch of fights that are going on this weekend. We're going to be talking about one championship. We're going to be talking about boxing, their Riyadh card, which is supposed to be the best boxing card ever that we've ever seen, right? And we'll have a total of like 5 title fights on it. Shout out Saudi Arabia. And we are going to be talking about, of course, the UFC Fight Night with Henry Triple C Cejudo coming back to fight Song Yadong, which is a lot closer than people may think. But first, I would like to thank you guys for stopping by my channel. If you guys are UFC fans and you like the striking aspect of it, slams, elbows, knees, punches, and you're not watching one championship, then hopefully I can make you tune into this next one championship card because it's gonna be a banger. Like I mentioned all the time, one championship has not only MMA, but they have jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and Muay Thai, which is kickboxing with elbows and knees and clinch and throws and slams, but it's in 4-ounce gloves where you can't see this anywhere else. Right, Muay Thai is usually in big boxing gloves. One championship is the only promotion I know of that does Muay Thai in 4-ounce gloves. So again, if you like just MMA striking without the continuous grappling, then one championship might be for you. So keep watching this video. And if you guys want to continue receiving one championship content, then be sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos about one championship and everything to do with combat sports. Now, with that being said, before we get into the video, I'm working on something really big for you guys. It's gonna be like a 6-part documentary series, not only my story and journey through martial arts, but the journey of many martial artists nowadays. And so if you guys are interested in hearing more about this, or you want to see some other documentaries I have on my channel, then I'll put a link in the description for you guys, and make sure you subscribe to the Patreon to be notified when more updates happen with that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this weekend's preview of these amazing fights. Let's go. Alright guys, so first we're gonna start off with the UFC card, previewing Cejudo versus Yadong in a fight that's really make it or break it for Henry Cejudo's career. This is a must-win for Henry Cejudo. Now I'm gonna not only go over this fight, but I'm gonna talk about some more fights to watch on this card if you're not familiar with some of these people, right? So, of course, Henry Cejudo is the former bantamweight and flyweight champion. He defended both of his titles at both weights, and he's the only guy in the UFC who's not retired to have beaten Demetrius Johnson. Shout out Dominic Cruz. He actually just retired because he blew out his shoulder. He was also supposed to be on this card, but we're not going to be able to see him fight because of that injury. And so yeah, shout out Dominic Cruz. But Henry Cejudo is someone who's also beaten Dominic Cruz. So he has this legacy about him. He's trying to get back to the title, right? So in his story, the way to do that is first to beat Song Yadong. Now, for a while, I didn't know where Henry Cejudo was going to go with this. He is 38 years old, right? He's going against a 27-year-old Song Yadong, who's one of the youngest ranked fighters in the UFC. But Henry Cejudo was actually even talking about dropping back down to flyweight. I think he just wants gold, and he wants the quickest path to gold. But I think it's probably important for him to understand that there are no elevators in life, right? Everything's gonna take a while. Henry Cejudo, the reality of it is, even with his name and with all the people that he's beaten and his legacy, it's gonna take a couple to get back to the title. I mean, he lost to Aljamain Sterling. That was his immediate comeback, right? His first fight in 3 years, he lost to Aljamain Sterling. Then he came back and fought Marab, which was like almost a #1 contender fight, and he ended up losing in a 3-round decision, in which he had some success in, but again, he lost. So that's 2 in a row that he's lost to 2 UFC champions. But with the activity and the pace that he's fighting, he really needs to knock off some cobwebs. Now, I don't know what kind of injuries he's been dealing with or anything like that, but Song Yadong, like I said, is a make it or break it fight. If he wins, he might need just 1 or 2 more before fighting for the title again because of his name. If he loses though, this might be the end of Henry. On the other hand, with Song Yadong, Song's coming off that honestly pretty fair decision to Peter Yan. They had a really good fight. I enjoyed every fucking second of it. That was back in 2024, and that was actually his only fight of last year, and it was in March. I think he's just been training, getting better. I don't think he had any big injuries or anything like that, and granted, that fight was pretty close. The only thing that hurt him in that fight was the fact that he could not get up off the bottom as much as he wanted to, and he ended up getting tired trying to. His efficiency from the bottom is just not there. It hasn't been there since he fought with Corey Sandhagen. And Peter Yan He took a page out of Corey Sandhagen's book in How to Beat Song Yadong by taking him down, mixing in some beautiful trips. I actually broke that down on my BJJ for MMA channel, but yeah, he had beautiful trips in that fight, which is why Peter Yan is maybe even going to be fighting for the title next, right? We're hearing that Yan versus Merab might be next, as well as Merab versus O'Malley, so I don't know who's going to win out of those. But it seems like that O'Malley, it seems like we're going to get a very exciting fight either way. Because if Yan fights Merab, then we're going to see O'Malley versus, like a Corey Sandhagen. And if Sean gets that fight, then we're going to see Petr Yan versus like a Corey Sandhagen. So either way, we're getting fun fights. But yeah, back to Song Yadong. Before that, he won over Chris Gutierrez, which is actually a really good win. And he knocked out Ricky Simón in a 5-round fight. So he has been this type of fighter who's gotten 2 wins and then he'll have a loss. He'll beat Marlon Moraes, he'll knock him out, he'll beat Julio Arce, he'll beat Casey Kenny, and then he'll lose. So Song Yadong is a guy who is about due to put together another streak, and he's young. He's still 27 years old with over or around 30 fights. So that's pretty crazy, right? He's pretty experienced, and not only that, his boxing is really nice. His wrestling is actually really good. It's underrated. I don't think his wrestling is the bad part of his style. I think it's more his bottom game, because he actually mixes his strikes into his wrestling pretty well, and he has a good awareness of takedown defense as well. And that's kind of what you can expect, him coming from a Sanda background, right? But guys, let me know who you think is gonna win this fight between Cejudo and Song Yadong. I think that Song Yadong actually is the favorite to me. Cejudo hasn't proven that he's willing to adapt and get better. It seems like he's just more honed in on his style, and he's just trying to get in shape for these fights rather than actually get better and improve. So with that being said, some other fights to watch on this card. Jean Matsumoto. Now this is a short notice fight for him, but he's looked good in the UFC so far, going against 38-year-old Rob Font. This is going to be a 37-year-old Rob Font. It's going to be a tough fight for both fighters because it is at a catch weight. It is short notice for Jean Matsumoto, but honestly, I'm leaning more towards Jean Matsumoto. But Brendan Allen is also fighting Anthony Hernandez. This is grappling galore. Brendan Allen doesn't have as good of wrestling as Anthony Hernandez, but I think Anthony Hernandez and him have a pretty similar skilled ground game. So I think it actually will end up in a striking fest, and I think that Anthony Hernandez is willing to give a little bit more in that striking aspect. However, I think this is going to be a closely contested fight, and they're both legit contenders in this division anyways. So whoever wins is gonna probably fight another top 5 guy. We also have Jean Silva. That's somebody to watch. I have not seen Melisik Bagdasarian. Alonzo Metafield is always an exciting fight to watch, of course. However, moving on to the preliminary card, Ibo Aslan going against Iwan Kutilaba. I think he's gonna knock out the Hulk. Iwan Kutilaba he's a good bully. That's what I've noticed from his career. He's a good bully. When he can have his way, he will have his way. He has been getting better over time. He hasn't plateaued. But when someone like Ibo Aslan, he's gonna put some hands on you, and I think that Kutilaba has taken a fair amount of damage in his career, and you put 2 and 2 together, you get a knockout usually. Right, Ricky Simón is going to get Javid Basharat. That's another fight to watch. Javid Basharat, if he wins this one, I wouldn't be surprised if they give him a top 10 fight next because of his trajectory. Javid Basharat is on what kind of win streak is he on? He's been on a 4-5 win streak since he's gotten to the UFC. He's undefeated, and yeah, he's going to go against Ricky Simón, who will test out his wrestling and his grappling because he's so good on the feet. But so far, it looks like his grappling and wrestling have been legit. It seems like he just needs tougher tests, to be honest, to really see where he's at. So that's a very promising fight. We also have Austin Vanderford, who just got signed to the UFC. He's going to be fighting. This is Paige Van Zandt's husband, if you guys didn't know who that was. So that's interesting, right? But that's pretty much all we have for that fight night for the UFC card. So go ahead and give me your predictions for that in the comment section. But now we're going to get into the one championship card, because this one, in my opinion, is better. Look, alright, so starting off the card, this is the early card, right? So we have 2 MMA fights. We have a featherweight and lightweight MMA fight. These are people who are new to one championship. maybe they have like one fight apiece, so I haven't really studied that much. And then we have a jiu-jitsu match. But now we get into the fun stuff, right? Because Kade Ruotolo, who is the best grappler in the world, let's just say it how it is. He's the best grappler in the world. He won the CJI tournament. He's been one championships submission grappling champion for a while now, for years. He's the youngest ever ADCC gold medalist. Like, he's the best grappler in the world, especially for his weight. Now, this is at a catch weight. He's not fighting at 170 or 155 like he has been in the past. Did he fight at 170 or 155? I believe he was competing at 170. Is, I guess, 155. Yeah, he's been competing at lightweight in one championship. But either way, he's going against Nicolas Vigna, where this is his first fight in one championship. Let's go ahead and actually check out who this guy is, right? Nicolas Vigna is a 7-0 professional mixed martial artist. Okay, cool. He's been fighting in Argentina. So he started his pro career in 2014, got 2 wins. He ended up taking a long break at 5-0 in 2018, and then coming back 6 years later to choke out Franco Risco in the first round, and that was in 2024. Now he's fighting in 2025. Okay, so this is not some taxi driver that he's fighting, but it is a guy who's I mean 6 or 7-0 in MMA, so that's pretty impressive. And keep in mind, Kade Ruotolo, not only is he 22, but this is his, what, 3rd pro fight in MMA. He had no amateur fights, so he's learning on the job. Best grappler in the world, but he's learning on the job. So this will be a fun fight to watch. Pay attention to Kade Ruotolo for sure. Ayaka Miura, she is a savage. She's going against, in MMA, she's going against Ritu Pogat. I do not know who this is. Ryu has lost to Stan Fairtex by submission, and Tiffany Teo by submission again. And Ayaka Miura is a pretty good grappler. So not only has she been a good grappler in MMA, but she's on a 3-fight win streak, and she's also grappled against Danielle Kelly. Even though she lost, it was a good match. So that's an interesting fight. Jake Peacock. Now this is where it gets interesting. Now I'm gonna speed up after this one right here. But Jake Peacock is a one-armed Muay Thai fighter. Let that sink in. He has one arm. Matter of fact, he has an arm and then he has a nub, right? To where it's just an elbow. And he hits people with it. It has no glove on it, so he hits people with bare nub. And this dude's a savage. I mean, if I put up some of his highlights for you, you would see how big of a savage he is. And this is going to be his 2nd or maybe 3rd fight in one championship. Let's actually check that right now. It's going to be his 2nd fight in one championship. He just won a unanimous decision last year, and man, like I said, this dude is a savage. And he's going against Shinji, who's 1-1 in one championship. So a good 2nd fight for him. One championships, Muay Thai and kickboxing divisions are a lot deeper than their MMA divisions, but the way you need to think about one championship is it's not necessarily like a UFC. It's not like a promotion to where they have like a roster of 500 people, which they do. They have a huge roster, but their rankings really only go to like 7 or 10. They don't have a top 15 and then a bunch of unranked people. It's like you're unranked or you're in the top 10. You know what I mean? And that's partially because they're a newer promotion. They've been around for like 11 years, I think. Now is like their 11th year. But also because they're quick to cut people. So when like not ranked and then you lose, a lot of times you don't get the call back to the one championship. They're there to find the best fighters, right? So Jake Peacock for Shinji, that's going to be a great fight. Tune into that one for sure. Bibiano Fernandez is taking on Kevin Billingham. The last time they fought, Bibiano Fernandez actually submitted him. I think this is probably going to be one of Bibiano's last fights. Bibiano was a long time, I think for like 8 years. He was the champion of one championship. He was a long time champion in the flyweight division. And he moved up to bantamweight, and he's been up at bantamweight for his later career, but he's still an amazing grappler, and I still think he could probably get it done against Kevin Billingham, who is just about as old as him. They have 3 fights together. Kevin Billingham won a split decision in their first fight, and then the second fight was a disqualification that Bibiano won, but you know, disqualifications don't really count that much, so they're fighting a 3rd time, and so they fought a 3rd time, which Bibiano ended up winning. So really it's 1-1 right now, and they're going to be fighting it out again. So that's a good rivalry for you guys to check out. We also have Shamil Gasanov, good wrestler. He's fighting against Martin Nguyen, who really, I think, Honestly, his only problem has been in the wrestling department. This dude has knockout power. He's been champion. He's fought for the title countless times. I mean, Martin Wynn has a win over Christian Lee. He's fought Bibiano Fernandez. This dude has been around a lot, right? He used to be at bantamweight, I believe, and then now he's been at featherweight. He's also fought up at lightweight. Like, he's been around, right? Problem, he gets knocked out, right? If now that he's a little bit later in his career, he's been knocked out like 3 or 4 times. He gets knocked out if he gets clipped. But Shamil Gasanov, it hasn't put anyone out in my eyes. He's wrestled people, he's gotten decision wins. So it's going to be interesting to see if Martin Wynn can knock out this Russian wrestler, or if Gasanov's going to be able to implement his strategy, right? But then we get into Shamil Erdogan, who is a Dagestani Turkish fighter who's undefeated, and he's having a rematch against Aung Song. And this is what I kind of mean. Now, if you look at the middleweight rankings, you're gonna see like a top 10, right? Maybe. And the fact that this was their last fight and Gunn ended up finishing him, and now they're having a rematch, just goes to show you the lack of depth that they have in the middleweight division, especially with Renier de Ritter leaving and things like that. So they're trying to kind of rebuild this division. They're trying to promote these fighters more, and Aung Song is a big crowd favorite over there in the Philippines from Myanmar or Myanmar, and he's going against Shamil Erdogan, who's, honestly, if I'm being legit, this dude's a savage. I watched him fight in person against Fan Rong, and he destroyed him. Then he went and destroyed Aung Song, both by second round knockouts. And so, did I think it deserved a rematch? No. Can Aung Song win? I mean, he's the former one championship double champion for middleweight and light heavyweight. I do think he has a chance, but he's just a little bit older now, and I think that Erdogan is a savage. So that is definitely a fight that you guys should watch, and will help you kind of understand the history of one championship. And then we get into Elias Inahaji. Now, a lot of you guys do not know who this is, and for a good reason. He is a kickboxer, right, who was actually the flyweight kickboxing champion of the world in one championship. However, he never got to actually defend his title because he missed weight against Superlek, but he beat Superlek, the one who just knocked out Jonathan Haggerty, the one who defeated Rotang, the one who defeated Takeru. He beat Superlek. That's fucking crazy. And now he's back in one championship. This is a catchweight kickboxing match against Pechenang, which is going to be a good fight, but man, Elias Inahaji is a savage, so I can't wait to see that. If you know anything about Superlek, then you're excited for this fight because of what I just told you. Go look at his highlights, go check him out. Elias Inahaji is a great addition to this one championship roster. And then we have Roberto Soldic. So let me tell you the history about this one, because if you're a UFC fan, this is also interesting to you. You should watch this fight because of Roberto Soldic. So the way these big companies like the UFC and one championship gain talent, they look at who is the top welterweights, or in this case welterweights in the world outside of these big promotions, and then they bid for him. Whoever is the highest paying will win, right? Roberto Soldic beat Dricus du Plessis, and then he lost to Dricus du Plessis. This was back when Dricus was at welterweight. This happened in, KSW, I believe. From there, one championship got Roberto Soldic, and the UFC acquired Dricus du Plessis. And so that's kind of the history, right? Ever since they've both been winning, I think Dricus definitely has had a better run. Roberto Soldic actually lost his one championship debut, and he's looking to try and get it back, man. I mean, that was back in 2023. I watched that one. They put him against a killer right away against Kade. Kade he's actually a murderer. So the fact that they put him against that guy like that in his debut, that's what happens at one championship. Like, you're gonna get an opportunity to fight the best in the world, but best believe they're gonna beat the best in the fucking world. And so it's like every fight at one championship is almost like a championship fight, if that makes sense. That's kind of what I was trying to explain earlier. But yeah, Roberto Soldic, this is his return, so we'll see how that's working out. Jonathan Haggerty, coming off that Superlek knockout, is defending his kickboxing bantamweight world championship against Wei Ri. What do we know about him? He has had one kickboxing win in one championship, and he's getting a title shot. He won over Hiro Akimoto, which is actually a good win. It was by decision, but any Muay Thai fight, honestly, is going to be exciting. This is kickboxing, Muay Thai. It's all exciting because you get to see just beautiful striking technique. But he's going against Jonathan Haggerty. It's an uphill battle for the bantamweight title, and Jonathan Haggerty, coming off that loss, we know he's been hungry. I've been watching his comeback now for a while, and just following him and everything. He's been upping his training routines, his recovery, and all this stuff. He's been just making all the right choices. And before this, we have to remember who Jonathan Haggerty was. I mean, he beat Vladimir Kuzmin, he beat Nongo, he beat Fabricio Andrade, then knocked out Felipe Lobo in a barn burner of a fight. I mean, this guy, however young or early in his career this has been doing things that are unheard of, right? So yes, he lost to Super Leg, but this is a super good fight to watch, right? And then we have, and if you want to know more about Jonathan Haggerty, go ahead and check out his interview with Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius always does a good job breaking down people's backgrounds and getting to know one championship and helping people get to know one championship. And then we have the main event, Joshua Pasio versus Jared Brooks, which is strawweight MMA. My God, where do I begin with this? Pasio won the belt, right? He has already been a champion in the past. He was actually a long-time strawweight champion for one championship, and then he lost the belt and has been fighting to get it back, right? I think he's actually a multiple-time world champion. Jared Brooks was the champion, and he got that belt from Joshua Pasio when he beat him in a unanimous decision. And then they both went their separate ways. Joshua Pasio went to fight Mansur Melachayev, who was the #1 contender in one championship. He beat him in a decision that was unanimous. And then he gets the rematch against Jared Brooks. And Jared Brooks actually ends up losing in a disqualification a minute into the fight. I was super excited for this fight, and then I just see Jared Brooks pick him up and spike him on his head. I thought his spine was crushed. I mean, the amount of dangerous thoughts that were going through my brain was like, goddamn, what did we just see? And Joshua Pasio is now the champion. But obviously, they have to fight again. So now that Joshua Pasio has recovered from his neck being injured, Jared Brooks won the interim strap against Gustavo Ballard, and then he moved up to fight Reese McLaren, which he lost a split decision, but it was just like an in-between fight until Joshua Pasio comes back. And so here we are. We're gonna see the result of what should have already happened. And so that's the one championship card. Hopefully you guys have liked so far this preview of these cards, and hopefully you guys want to watch one championship now. However, getting into boxing's greatest card ever, or so we have been told. Look at this. So this fight card is going to be headlined by Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol 2 after their extremely close fight, in which I personally thought Bivol won. I thought he did enough. I thought he outpointed him, but you can't lose the championship rounds and then want to be called the champion, right? I think Beterbiev arguably did win that fight. I think it was close. There's not a robbery either way, but this is the rematch, so the past doesn't matter anymore. They're fighting again. I think Beterbiev did everything he needed to win. I think maybe he needs to start a little bit earlier if he's gonna have a better chance in this one. Now, like I said, he already won, right? So everything he did was correct, but I think Bivol is gonna change up some things. I think he's gonna look to really define certain rounds early and then take the later rounds. He's gonna put more of an emphasis on the later rounds. And so in the meantime, I think Beterbiev, if he comes on strong, maybe gives away a couple of the middle rounds, then he might be able to not only knock out Bivol late, but he may be able to steal more of those early rounds so he doesn't have to do as much later on, right? And so that's the main event, right? The insane fight. And why is it insane? Well, it's for the undisputed light heavyweight title fight. Right now, Beterbiev has all 5 belts. He has the WBA, WBC, IB, and WBO, as well as the Ring Magazine belt. So he is the undisputed champion right now at light heavyweight, which means, well, undisputed, you know what that means, right? So this fight is for the best fighter in the world at light heavyweight. And if Beterbiev can defeat Dmitry Bivol again, to where there's no controversy between who won the last fight and things like that, if he could beat him decisively, we actually might see a David Benavidez and Artur Beterbiev fight, because of David Benavidez capturing the interim WBC belt. And so with that being said, we have all this fluctuation, all this movement in nowadays boxing scene. Why? Because of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has given us these. We would have never seen Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. I mean, Artur Beterbiev is turning 40, or he is 40. There's no way we would have seen it without Saudi Arabia making these fights happen by paying them what they should be paid. So thank you to Saudi Arabia and Turkey Al Sheikh for this. That's the main event. Now there's more fights, and we're gonna get into more of why Saudi Arabia is currently saving boxing. But wait until the end of this video, because we're also going to be talking about the problems that come with what Saudi Arabia is doing. Now, the co-main event is Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker for Daniel Dubois' IBF heavyweight title fight, or heavyweight title. Joseph Parker is the current interim WBO champion after beating Zhilei Zhang. This came after his win against Deontay Wilder. And so right here, right now, there's fluctuation at heavyweight, because we know we have Usyk, who is the undisputed champion. He's really the undisputed, right? The IBF honestly doesn't even exist, because Alexander Usyk didn't want to defend against whoever the IBF was saying. I mean, at the end of the day, Usyk is still Usyk, right? And so this could be for who Usyk fights next. I know Usyk said for his last fight he wanted to fight Alex Pereira, the UFC light heavyweight champion, which would be a fucking crazy fight. If we just are being honest, that's a crazy fucking fight. Now, yes, Usyk is one of the best boxers we've ever seen. He's going against Alex Pereira, who's also in his prime, maybe a little bit after it. One of the best kickboxers and MMA fighters that we've ever seen. There's no way we don't get up for that fight. There's no way that that fight doesn't get made if Alexander Usyk takes care of business, because Alexander Usyk says he has 2 fights. He wants Alex Pereira to be his last fight, which means he'll have to get through the winner of Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, because it means more if it's the undisputed heavyweight title, even though pretty much it is. But Daniel Dubois, let's talk about him, because he's coming off of that nasty Filip Hrgovic fight and beating up Anthony Joshua in a war. I mean, what he did to Anthony Joshua, like I said, we wouldn't even be in this position if it wasn't for Saudi Arabia. Right, we wouldn't have gotten that AJ versus Dubois fight. I mean, Dubois has lost twice, and he's got knocked out twice. Joseph Parker has lost, 3 times, been knocked out once? I mean, we're in a different age of boxing right now. Before, one loss, you're counted out in boxing. You're no longer gonna be champion. You no longer have promised to be one of the greats. You're counted out. You're done. But now, with Saudi Arabia making these fights happen, we're getting to see the division play out. It's very similar to MMA. Saudi Arabia is making boxing the MMA of today's age, if that makes sense. So Daniel Dubois, who's been knocked out twice, would have never gotten to fight AJ beforehand, but because Saudi Arabia got involved, and because they built up AJ even more after his loss to Usyk by letting him fight Francis Ngannou, and by letting him knock out Francis Ngannou, who just beat Tyson Fury in everybody else's eyes, which is another fight that they made because they let all that happen, and AJ got all this hype, all this build, and he was the new AJ, the improved AJ, the I can beat Usyk again if I beat Dubois AJ. But Daniel Dubois shocked the world, and he knocked him out. It was... You can't dispute a knockout, right? That's the one thing that can't be disputed, and he did that. And now he's fighting Joseph Parker, and both Joseph Parker or Dubois, they need to win this fight. Whoever wins this fight fights Usyk, and after Usyk, who knows what happens, right? Big card, right? Next, we have Shakur Stevenson fighting Floyd Schofield for Stevenson's WBC lightweight title. Shakur needs this win. He needs this win over Schofield, because Schofield's been talking. He's been talking hot shit. I mean, Shakur needs to win this fight. I hope I made myself clear. Fight. If he wins a boxing match, it's gonna be the same thing. For him to really break in to the mainstream media, Shakur has to win this fight. It has to be a fight, and he has to win it. Whether people shame him for it, whether people praise him for being in a fight, because yes, it's boxing, the art of hitting and not getting hit, it ought to be a fight. If it's a one-sided fight, cool, good, but he has to finish. Like, him winning all these decisions isn't doing anything for his popularity, his stardom. Nobody wants to watch him, but he's still a big name, weirdly enough, right? But I'm glad that they're putting him on this Beterbiev Dmitry Bivol card, because Turki Alashik is just, he's promoting it. He wants that tank fight to happen, and with a win over Schofield in an impressive fashion, that tank fight can happen. Before Tank ends up retiring. We know he's been talking about retiring left and right. Do we want that fight? I don't. Not if Shakur's not gonna actually fight. I don't know. We'll see. Shakur has to put it together, man. The one thing we haven't seen him do is just walk someone down and knock him out. That's to each their own, right? I'm a fan of his defensive style. I'm still a fan of it. He looks pretty while he's doing it and all this stuff. But in order to get that Tank fight, because Tank is not gonna have that happen. He's not excited for it. He's not gonna let that fight happen. So that's what we need. So then we have a WBC middleweight title on the line. Carlos Adames or Adames versus Hamza Shiraz. I don't know too much about those people, but Virgil Ortiz versus Israel Madrimov. Virgil Ortiz, the undefeated super welterweight. He's the WBC's interim super welterweight champion. He's going against Israel Madrimov. They're kind of all waiting on Bud, right? They're waiting on Bud. That's kind of what is happening right now. Either Bud or super welterweight. Now, are either of these fighters gonna get that Bud fight? I mean, Madrimov just lost to Bud. He took him to decision for the first time in like 10 years. But I don't know if that fight's actually gonna happen, because Bud he's already thinking about Canelo, right? He's trying to fight Canelo. That's what he wants to do. That's what's next for Bud. However, with an exciting fight, they might change his mind. So we'll see. But that's a great fight for Israel Madrimov. Zhilei Zhang, he's fighting for the interim WBC heavyweight title against Agit Kabayel. Zhilei Zhang is the Chinese bomber. I mean, this dude throws fucking haymakers, and he can knock anyone out, as we saw him do to Deontay Wilder, right? We all watched that fight, right? So yeah, very exciting fight. We never see this many title fights. There's also interim light heavyweight title fight, WBO, Joshua Bausti versus Callum Smith. So yeah, we don't see, usually boxing cards, they have the main event, and then they have, you know, whoever else needs some money badly, right? That's kind of how boxing cards work. But with Saudi getting into business with themselves and with the world of boxing, they're making boxing great. And boxing, honestly, is it's at an all-time high right now, in my opinion. I think that we're entering the golden era of combat sports, whether that's MMA, Muay Thai, all of these. And with that being said, look at this video right here. I mean, this is the only problem with the whole Saudi thing, because TKO and UFC, which TKO is the big company that owns the UFC pretty much, is looking to repeal the Ali Act. This is boxing we're talking about. This is right before the UFC is going into boxing, and this is right as Turki Al-Sheikh is signing Canelo to maybe the biggest contract we've ever seen for boxing, a 4-fight deal with over 100 million per fight guaranteed. So we're seeing insane money being thrown at these fighters now, and we're seeing all these great fighters being signed by Turkey now. But the Ali Act is what makes these fighters have power. It's what lets these fighters get paid what they're getting paid, and what gives fighters the powers over promotions. And it's looking like there's going to be changes to the Muhammad Ali Act, which the Muhammad Ali Act, if you guys don't know, it's what allows for transparency between how much the promotion is getting paid and how much the fighter is going to get paid. It's what allows the fighter to sign one-offs and one-fight deals, and what allows them to have their own freedom and not be tied down to any specific promotion, where they can get the lion's share and the promotion does not get the lion's share of the money. It's the opposite of the UFC. It's what people want to happen in MMA, for there to be more power for the fighters so that the fighters get paid more. And with Turki Al-Sheikh, who I know has ownership in the UFC, with him doing what he's doing with boxing, and then the Ali Act's about to get repealed, it could be a dictatorship. And we could be looking at another UFC before boxing, literally. Then with the UFC getting in there, oh man, are boxers losing their freedom? Is that what we're getting with this whole Turki Al-Sheikh situation? Or is Turki Al-Sheikh the white knight we all needed? It's a very interesting proposal, right? Is he the hero, or is he more of a Nero type? Shout out to you guys who got that. But guys, thank you for tuning into the video. That's all we have for today. We talked about the greatest boxing card that might happen this weekend. We talked about One Championship's next fight, which is happening Thursday. And we also talked about the UFC Fight Night that we had this weekend between Cejudo and Yadong. Guys, it's going to be an amazing weekend of fights. Check out my reactions, because I will be reacting to these fights. Don't forget to leave your comments down below, and be sure to subscribe. Welcome to the family, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.